The emergency beacon from Outpost 7 had been screaming into the void for 3 days before anyone heard it. The signal was broken, fragmented, but the message was clear enough. Something had gone wrong on KX-347. Something bad. The Galactic Coalition moved quickly. Within a week, they assembled an army. 10,000 soldiers from 12 different species. The Velnari brought their shock troops, tall and gray-skinned with forearms built for war. The Cathari sent their hunters, cat-like beings who could see in darkness and smell fear. The Threnodi came with their hive scouts, insectoid creatures that thought as one. Every major species contributed their best warriors. Humanity sent 47 soldiers. It was a political gesture, nothing more. Everyone knew humans were weak. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore. They needed very specific air to breathe and died if the temperature changed too much. They were newcomers to the galaxy, barely 2 generations since first contact. The Coalition included them to be polite. Sergeant Elena Kovac stood in the transport bay and listened to the briefing. She was 32 years old, dark-haired with scars on her hands from 10 years of military service. She specialized in demolitions. Back on Earth, she had blown up bridges, buildings, and bunkers. Here in space, she mostly felt useless. Commander Thexilor stood at the front of the briefing room. He was Velnari, over 8 feet tall with skin like polished stone. His voice boomed through the translators. KX-347 is classified as a Class 9 Deathworld, he said. Gravity is 1.4 times standard. Atmosphere is toxic to most species without filtration. Native life forms are aggressive and deadly. The mining colony had 300 workers. They were equipped with the best equipment, the strongest shelters. A hologram appeared above his head. It showed a planet covered in green. Thick jungles, massive trees, mountains wrapped in fog. It looked alive. Too alive. We have received no communication for 72 hours, Thexilor continued. Orbital scans show the colony structures intact. No damage, no signs of battle, but no life signs either. One of the Velnari officers raised a hand. Perhaps they evacuated? All shuttles are still in the hangar, Thexilor said. They are still there. We just cannot detect them. Elena felt something cold in her stomach. She raised her hand. The commander looked at her with barely hidden irritation. Yes, Sergeant Kovac? Sir, if we cannot detect them, maybe we should consider a reconnaissance mission first. Small team. In and out. Before we send 10,000 soldiers. Several aliens in the room made sounds. The translator interpreted them as laughter. One of the Cathari officers hissed something that translated to typical human cowardice. Thexilor's face was unreadable. We are not going in loud, Sergeant. We are executing a standard search and rescue operation with overwhelming force. If there is a threat, we will eliminate it. If colonists are in hiding, we will extract them. Your species may prefer caution. We prefer victory. Elena sat down. Around her, the other human soldiers looked uncomfortable. Captain Martinez, their commanding officer, gave her a small nod. He agreed with her. But no one would listen to humans, not here. Not with warriors from a dozen species who had been fighting wars for thousands of years. The fleet arrived at KX-347 16 hours later. Elena stood in the observation deck and watched the planet grow larger. It was beautiful. Terrifyingly beautiful. The green was not like Earth's green. It was darker, deeper, almost black in places. The clouds were not white but gray-green, swirling in patterns that hurt to watch for too long. Gives me the creeps, said Private Chen. He was young, only 23 from New Shanghai. His hands shook slightly as he checked his rifle. Stay alert down there, Elena told him. Watch everything. Trust nothing. The first landing parties went down in heavy carriers. Elena's squad was in the third wave. They landed in a clearing near the colony, and the moment the ramp dropped, the heat hit her like a physical blow. It was not just hot. It was wet, thick like breathing through a damp cloth. The air tasted wrong even through her filter mask. The jungle around them was silent. No birds, no insects. Just the sound of 10,000 soldiers moving through alien plants. The colony was a 10-minute march. Elena saw it through the trees and stopped. The buildings were perfect, clean, lights still on in some windows. The main gate was open. This is wrong, she whispered. Move up, came the order through her comm. Search every structure. The army spread out through the colony. Elena's squad took the residential section. They moved through corridors that smelled like recycled air and fear. In one room, she found a table with food still on it. A fork lay next to a half-eaten meal. A chair was pushed back as if someone had stood up quickly, but there was no blood. No signs of struggle. No bodies, they just left, Private Chen said. Like they stood up and walked away. Elena touched the food. It was fresh. Still soft. This had happened recently, maybe hours ago. Reports came in from across the colony. 300 people had lived here. Not one remained. But all their things were here. Their clothes, their tools, their personal items, even their shoes. Who leaves without their shoes? Martinez asked over the command channel. No one had an answer. Commander Thexilor ordered the army to establish a perimeter. They would push into the jungle, search for survivors, find out what happened. The Velnari officers were confident. They had weapons that could level mountains, armor that could withstand plasma fire, sensors that could detect life signs through solid rock. But Elena watched the jungle. She watched how the trees seemed to lean toward them when no wind was blowing. She watched how the ground looked soft, too soft, like it was breathing. She watched how the shadows moved wrong. That night they set up camp in the colony. Lights blazed from every building. Guards were posted every 50 meters. Everyone was armed. Elena could not sleep. She sat on the roof of the barracks and stared at the jungle. The moons of KX-347 were rising, 3 of them casting strange shadows across the landscape. Martinez climbed up and sat beside her. "You were right," he said quietly. "We should not be here." "We are here now," Elena replied. "We just need to survive it." "You think we are in danger?" Elena pointed at the jungle. "Sir, look at it. Really look at it." The trees are in perfect circles around the colony. The clearing did not happen naturally. Something made this space, something wanted this space empty. Martinez followed her gaze. After a moment, his face went pale. "The planet knew they were here," Elena said, "and now it knows we are here too." In the jungle, something shifted. Not an animal, not the wind. The jungle itself moved like a sleeping giant rolling over, and in that moment, Elena knew with absolute certainty that they had made a terrible mistake. The planet was not just alive. It was awake, and it was watching them. The disappearances started at dawn. Private First Class Jorvik, a Threnodi scout, went to check the eastern perimeter. He never came back. His squad went looking for him. They found his weapon on the ground, his comm unit, even his boots, but no body. No blood, nothing. Probably deserted, one of the Velnari officers said. These insect types have weak minds, but Elena knew better. The Threnodi did not desert. They operated as a hive. If one left, others would know. The hive mother was confused, distressed. She could not feel Jorvik's mind anymore. He was just gone. Commander Thexilor ordered a full push into the jungle. If there was a threat, they would find it and destroy it. 8,000 soldiers moved out at noon, leaving 2,000 to guard the colony. Elena's squad was in the advance guard, moving through vegetation so thick they had to cut every step. The jungle fought them. Vines as thick as Elena's leg hung from trees that reached hundreds of feet high. The ground was soft, spongy, covered in moss that released spores when stepped on. Some soldiers started coughing. The Cathari, with their sensitive noses, began vomiting. "Masks on," Martinez ordered. "Full filtration." But the masks did not help much. Elena's visor kept fogging up. Sweat poured down her face. The heat was unbearable. Around her, alien soldiers struggled even more. The Velnari, built for their cold homeworld, were moving slowly. Their gray skin had turned purple from the heat. They found the first bodies at hour 3. A squad of Cathari hunters, 12 of them hanging from trees. They were wrapped in roots that had grown through their bodies. Their eyes were open, staring. Their mouths were open too, like they had been screaming, but they were still alive. Barely. Their chests moved with shallow breaths. When the medics tried to cut them down, the roots tightened. One Cathari's chest collapsed inward. The scream was horrible. "Leave them," the Cathari commander ordered, his voice shaking. "They are already dead? We must move on," Elena wanted to argue. But what could they do? Every time they cut a root, 3 more grew back. The jungle was healing faster than they could hurt it. By evening, 37 soldiers were missing. By nightfall, the number was 89. They vanished in 1s and 2s. A soldier would fall behind, and when their squad looked back, they were gone. Sometimes they found equipment, sometimes nothing at all. Commander Thexilor ordered everyone back to the colony. They retreated in tight formation. Weapons pointed in every direction. Elena kept her rifle ready, but what was she supposed to shoot? The trees. The ground? The air itself seemed hostile. They made it back to the colony just after midnight. The guards at the gates looked relieved to see them. But their relief died when they heard the count. 89 missing in one day. Unacceptable, Thexler said. We are the finest warriors in the galaxy. We will not be defeated by plants. He ordered fortifications. The engineers brought out heavy equipment and started building walls. They dug trenches around the colony. They set up automated gun towers. They made the colony into a fortress. Elena watched them work and felt sick. They were not understanding. This was not an enemy you could shoot. This was not an enemy you could wall out. Private Chen sat next to her, cleaning his rifle for the third time. His hand still shook. Sarge, what is out there? He asked. I do not know, Elena admitted, but it is learning. It took small groups today. Tested our response. Tomorrow it will be worse, she was right. The next morning, an entire battalion vanished. 800 soldiers. They had been camped on the southern edge of the colony. When dawn came, they were gone. The tents were still there. The weapons were still there. Even the campfires were still burning. But 800 living beings had simply disappeared. The ground where they had slept looked disturbed, churned up, but there were no tracks leading away. No signs of struggle. Elena walked to the site with Martinez and a science team. The Velnari scientist, a female named Zelith, knelt down and scooped up some of the dirt. She ran it through her scanner. Her face went pale, which for a Velnari meant turning almost white. This is not dirt, she said quietly. What? Martinez asked. It is organic matter, partially digested. This is... She stopped, her voice breaking. This used to be soldiers. Elena felt her stomach turn. She looked at the ground with new horror. The entire camp was sitting on top of what used to be 800 living beings. The planet had eaten them while they slept. It had digested them so quickly that no one had woken up. No one had screamed, "We need to leave," Elena said. Right now. We need to get back to the ships. Absolutely not, Commander Thexler's voice came over the comm. We do not flee. We establish a defensive position and we hold it. Sir, the ground is eating us, Elena said. We cannot defend against the ground, then we will pave it. Thexler roared. Bring in the heavy equipment. Cover every inch with metal plates. We will cut down the jungle. We will burn it if we must. This is a planet, Sergeant. It is not alive. It cannot think. It is simply a hostile environment and we will adapt to it. But Elena knew he was wrong. She had seen the patterns. The way the jungle moved. The way attacks came in waves, testing their defenses. This was not random. This was not instinct. This was intelligence. That night the attacks became targeted. The methane breathers, who needed special atmosphere processors, found their air supply turning toxic. 3 of them died before they could switch to backup tanks. The aquatic species, who needed moisture chambers, found their water evaporating impossibly fast. 2 more dead. Each species faced its own nightmare. Each weakness was exploited. The planet knew them. It had been watching, learning, adapting. The humans suffered too. Private Chen went missing during his watch. Elena found his post empty, his rifle on the ground, still warm. She screamed his name into the darkness. Nothing answered. By the 3rd day, the army of 10,000 had been reduced to 6,000. Commander Thexler still refused to evacuate. He stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing their shrinking numbers, and he planned counterattacks. We will use orbital bombardment, he declared. Burn the jungle to ash. Sterilize the entire region. Sir, Zelith said carefully. I must show you something. She pulled up new scans of the planet. Elena looked at them and felt her blood go cold. The jungle was not separate plants. It was one plant. One massive organism that covered the entire continent, maybe the entire planet. The roots went down miles. The network of vines connected everything. It is a single life form, Zelith said. We are not fighting a forest. We are fighting a single, massive, intelligent organism. And we are standing on it, inside it. We are insects crawling on the skin of a giant. The room went silent. Even Thexler seemed shaken. Then we kill it, he said finally. We find the heart, the brain, whatever controls it. And we destroy it, Elena wanted to laugh. It was such typical military thinking. Everything had a weak point. Everything could be killed. But what if they were wrong? What if this thing had no weak point? What if it was the entire planet? That night, the command bunker was pulled underground. Commander Thexler and 30 officers were inside. The metal structure, built to withstand nuclear weapons, simply sank into the earth like it was quicksand. They screamed over the comms for help. Soldiers rushed over and tried to dig them out. But the ground was like concrete, harder than concrete. It had swallowed the bunker in seconds and then sealed over it. Gone. Just gone. Elena stood there, staring at the spot where the command center had been. Around her, soldiers from a dozen species looked lost, terrified. They had lost their commander. They had lost their leadership. They had lost hope. Martinez grabbed her arm. "Kovac, you are senior sergeant now for the human contingent. What do we do?" Elena looked around at what remained of the mighty army. Maybe 4,000 soldiers left, and the jungle was pressing closer. She could see the trees moving slowly like they were walking. The vines were reaching out, testing the perimeter. "We run," she said. "We run for the ships and we pray we make it." The retreat order came too late. When the surviving officers tried to contact the orbital fleet, they found the communication arrays were gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Consumed. Where the massive transmission towers had stood, there was now only jungle. It had grown over them in hours, swallowing the technology, digesting it. Elena gathered the remaining human soldiers, 32 out of 47. Martinez was alive. So was Corporal Jackson, a medic from Texas, Private Yuki from Japan. Others, whose names she barely remembered because they had been strangers days ago, now they were all she had. "We make for the landing zone," Elena told them. "Stay together, stay alert. If someone falls behind, we do not stop. I hate saying that, but if we stop, we all die." "That is cold, Sarge," Jackson said. "That is survival," Elena replied. They moved out at dawn. Around them, thousands of other soldiers were doing the same. The retreat was chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries now pushed and fought to be first in line. The Velnari used their size to shove smaller species aside. The Cathari ran ahead on all fours, abandoning their equipment. The hive mind Threnodi were breaking down, their mental connections severed as individuals died, leaving the survivors confused and scared. Humans moved steadily, not fast, but not slow. Elena kept her squad in the middle of the pack. Let others rush ahead and trigger whatever traps the planet had waiting. Let others fall behind and feed the monster. The jungle attacked differently now. It was no longer subtle. Trees fell across paths, crushing soldiers beneath them. Vines shot out like spears, impaling anyone who got too close. The ground opened up in sinkholes that swallowed entire squads, and the air itself began to change. The oxygen breathers started gasping. The atmosphere was shifting, becoming thinner. The methane breathers suddenly found they could breathe easier, but their relief lasted only minutes before their air turned toxic too. The planet was targeting each species individually, learning their biology, weaponizing the environment against them. "It is playing with us," Zelith said. The scientist had attached herself to the human group. She was wounded, one of her forearms broken, but still moving. It could kill us all instantly, but it is studying us, learning. "Learning what?" Martinez asked. "How we work, how we think, how we die." They found bodies along the path. So many bodies. Some were just bones, picked clean by something. Others were still alive but changed. A Velnari soldier stood in the middle of the trail, swaying. His eyes were vacant. Roots grew from his mouth, his nose, his ears. He was not screaming. He was humming. "Do not touch him," Elena ordered. "Move around, quickly." But one of the Cathari could not help themselves. They reached out, trying to help their former comrade. The moment they touched the Velnari, vines exploded from the ground and dragged them both down. Gone in seconds. The lesson was clear. The infected were bait. The planet was using their own people against them. They reached a clearing and stopped. Ahead, the path split. Left led toward the main landing zone where the big ships had landed. Right led toward the emergency evac site where smaller shuttles waited. "Main LZ," one of the Velnari officers ordered. "That is where the heavy ships are." But Elena saw smoke rising from that direction. Black, thick smoke. That site is compromised. We go right. You do not give orders, human, the Velnari snapped. Then die your own way, Elena said. Humans, we go right. Anyone else who wants to live, follow us. She started walking. Her squad followed. After a moment, so did Zelith. Then a handful of Cathari, a few of the smaller species, maybe 60 soldiers total. The Velnari officer sneered and led his group left. Elena did not look back. She heard the screaming start 10 minutes later. It lasted a long time. The emergency evac site was smaller, just a clearing with 3 shuttles. But when they arrived, Elena saw only 1 shuttle remained. The other 2 had been pulled into the ground. Only the tips of their wings were visible, like gravestones. The remaining shuttle sat in the center of the clearing, untouched. Its ramp was down. Its engines were humming. It looked perfect. Too perfect. It is a trap, Zelith said. Of course it is, Elena replied. But it is also our only chance. She studied the clearing. The ground around the shuttle was covered in strange patterns. Circular marks like something had been moving underneath. Testing. Probing. The shuttle itself looked pristine because the planet wanted them to see it. Wanted them to come close. We need a distraction, Elena said. Something to draw its attention. I will do it, Jackson said. I am already wounded. Leg is infected. I will not make it anyway. No, Elena said. No one else dies if we can help it. We use equipment. They gathered every explosive they had, every grenade, every charge, every piece of ammunition. They rigged it all together into one massive bomb. Elena set the timer for 60 seconds. When this blows, we run, she said. Do not look back. Do not stop. Get to that shuttle and get it airborne, understood? Everyone nodded. Even the aliens, who did not take orders from humans, nodded. Elena placed the bomb at the edge of the jungle and started the timer. Then she ran. They all ran. 60 seconds felt like forever. 40 seconds. 20. 10. The explosion was massive. It lit up the jungle like a sun. Fire roared into the trees. Smoke billowed up. And the planet screamed. It was not a sound. It was a feeling. A vibration that came up through the ground and into their bones. The planet was in pain, it was angry, and it was distracted. They sprinted for the shuttle. The ground began to heave and buckle. Vines shot up around them. Elena felt something grab her ankle and she fell. Martinez turned back, grabbed her arm, yanked her free. The vine tried to follow, but he shot it again and again until it retreated. They reached the ramp, bodies piled inside. Elena counted. 47 survivors, 47 out of 10,000. The thought made her sick. Get us up, she screamed at the pilot, a Threnody named Zixith. The shuttle engines roared. They lifted off. For a moment, Elena thought they were safe. Then vines shot up from the ground, hundreds of them, reaching for the shuttle like grasping hands. They wrapped around the landing gear. The shuttle shuddered, engines straining. We are too heavy, Zixith screamed. We need to drop weight. Elena looked around. 47 survivors. The shuttle was rated for 50. They were not too heavy from people. They were too heavy because the planet was holding them. Emergency release, she ordered. Drop the landing gear. We will crash on landing. We will die here if you do not do it. Zixith hit the release. The landing gear detached. The vines, still holding the gear, dragged it back down to the jungle. The shuttle shot upward, free. They climbed. The jungle fell away below them. Elena saw the extent of it now. Green stretched in every direction as far as she could see. The mountains were covered. The valleys were filled. The planet was green. All of it. One massive living organism. And in the center of the colony she saw movement. The buildings were being pulled underground. The planet was erasing all evidence they had ever been there. In a week, it would look like nothing had ever disturbed this place. We need to warn them, Zelith said. Warn the galaxy. This planet is not just alive, it is intelligent, it is dangerous. But Elena was looking at something else. The pilot's console. The shuttle's manifest. She pulled it up and felt cold spread through her chest. This shuttle was launched 3 days ago, she said quietly. From the mining colony, it was the last one out. Everyone went silent. Martinez came over, looked at the data. His face went pale. That means someone from the original colony made it out, he said. Someone survived. Who? Silith asked. Elena scrolled through the manifest. One name. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb. Human. 43 years old. Specialist in geological surveys. He made it back to the orbital station 3 days ago, Elena said. He was the one who sent the distress signal. He was the one who told the coalition the colony needed help. Then where is he now? Martinez asked. Before anyone could answer, the shuttle's comm system activated. A voice came through, calm and pleasant. Human voice. Male. Hello? It said. This is Marcus Webb. I am currently in medical quarantine on Station Alpha. I want to thank you all for attempting the rescue. I am sorry so few of you survived. Elena grabbed the comm. Webb, this is Sergeant Kovac. What happened down there? What is that thing? Silence. Then laughter. Soft, gentle laughter. We woke it up, Webb said. We drilled too deep. Broke through into something old. Something that had been sleeping. We woke it up and it was so very hungry. You knew, Elena said, horror dawning. You knew, and you called for help anyway. It wanted me to, Webb said simply. It let me go so I could bring more, so it could learn more. It learned so much from all of you, such wonderful variety, such different biologies. It has never tasted so many species before. The comm went dead. Elena stood there shaking. Around her, the survivors were silent. They understood now. They had not been on a rescue mission. They had been food, delivered by one of their own. The shuttle broke atmosphere and docked with the orbital station. As they disembarked, security teams were waiting, not to help them, to contain them, to quarantine them. Because if the planet could infect Webb, it could infect any of them. Elena walked to the observation deck and looked back at KX-347. It hung in space, beautiful and green and deadly. And she knew with absolute certainty that this was not over. The quarantine was absolute. Station Alpha went into lockdown the moment their shuttle docked. 47 survivors from 10,000 soldiers. They were separated by species, placed in medical bays, and examined by doctors in full biohazard suits. Elena sat on a medical bed and let them scan her. Blood tests, brain scans, physical examination. The doctors did not speak to her. They just looked at their instruments and made notes. She saw fear in their eyes. Captain Martinez was in the bed next to her. He looked older now, gray hair that had not been gray a week ago. His hands shook constantly. Do you think we are infected? He asked quietly. I do not know, Elena said. But Webb was, and he seemed fine. Until he was not. 3 beds down, one of the Cathari survivors started screaming. Not words, just sound. Raw, primal terror. The doctors rushed over with sedatives. It took 4 of them to hold the Cathari down. When they finally got the injection in, the alien went limp. But its eyes stayed open, staring at nothing, and its mouth kept moving silently. Psychological trauma, one doctor said. Common in survivors of extreme situations. But Elena knew better. She had seen that look before. In the jungle. In the soldiers who had been infected. The Cathari was not traumatized. It was changing, she was right. 2 hours later, the Cathari died. Its body simply stopped functioning. The doctors called it organ failure. But when they did the autopsy, they found something else. Fine threads running through the Cathari's nervous system. Organic material that was not supposed to be there. The planet had put something in them. Seeds, spores, something. The station went into higher alert. All survivors were moved to maximum isolation. Separate rooms, separate air systems, guards outside every door. Elena lay in her cell and stared at the ceiling. She could hear others screaming through the walls. The Velnari scientist, Zelith, was shouting about data they needed to collect. One of the Threnodi was singing, a strange humming sound that made Elena's teeth ache. And somewhere on this station, Marcus Webb was also in isolation. The man who had caused all of this. The man who had led them into the trap. Elena requested to see him. The request was denied. She requested again, and again. Finally, on the third day, they allowed it. She was escorted by 6 armed guards to a cell in the deepest part of the station. Marcus Webb sat in the center of the room. He was a small man, thin, with brown hair and gentle eyes. He looked completely normal. He smiled when Elena entered. "Sergeant Kovac," he said warmly, "I am glad you survived." "I truly am." "You killed 10,000 soldiers," Elena said. "No," Webb replied calmly. "The planet did. I just brought them there. It needed to learn, to grow, to understand the galaxy. It is a monster. It is alive. It is as alive as you or me. More alive, really. It has existed for millions of years. It has consciousness, desires, dreams." Webb leaned forward. "Do you know what it wants?" "To kill us. No, to spread. To see the stars. It has been trapped on one world for so long, but now it knows about space travel, about other planets, about the thousands of worlds in the coalition, each with its own unique biology." Elena felt sick. "You are talking about an invasion." "I am talking about evolution," Webb said. His eyes were bright, too bright. "The planet shared itself with me. I felt what it feels, saw what it sees. It is magnificent, Sergeant. It offered me a gift. To be part of something greater than myself. To never die. To spread across the stars. You are insane, am I?" Webb stood up. The guards outside tensed, hands on weapons. "Look at yourself, Sergeant. Look at your species, humans, so weak, so fragile. You die from 1,000 different things. Disease, age, injury. But the planet does not die. It adapts, it evolves. It could make you stronger. Make all of us stronger. By turning us into slaves. By making us part of something eternal." Webb pressed his hands against the transparent barrier between them. "It is already too late, you know. The spores are in all of you. Every survivor. It will take time, weeks maybe, but eventually you will feel it. The connection, the pull, and you will understand." Elena stepped back. "We will find a cure. We will burn it out of us," Webb laughed. "You cannot burn out evolution, Sergeant. This is not a disease. This is the next step. The planet chose your species carefully. Humans are adaptable. Humans survive. That is why it let so many of you live compared to the others. 32 humans survived out of 47 sent. That is nearly 70%. Do you think that was luck?" Elena's blood went cold. He was right. The humans had survived at a much higher rate than any other species. The Velnari were almost entirely wiped out. The Cathari had only a handful left. But humans, weak, fragile humans, had survived. "It likes you," Webb whispered. "It wants to learn from you. Your adaptability. Your persistence. Your ability to survive anywhere. Imagine that intelligence combined with human determination. Imagine what we could become." Elena turned and walked out. She did not run. She would not give him that satisfaction. But her mind was racing. If Webb was right, if they were all infected, then they were weapons. Biological weapons aimed at the galaxy. She went straight to the medical bay and found the head doctor, a Velnari named Thexal. "We need to be destroyed," Elena said. "All of us. Every survivor. We cannot be allowed off this station." Thexal looked at her with sad eyes. "We know. The Coalition has already issued the order. This station will be sterilized. Everyone aboard will be eliminated. They cannot risk contamination spreading." "When?" 72 hours. They are evacuating all non-exposed personnel now. Then they will flood the station with radiation. Nothing will survive." Elena nodded. It was the right choice. The only choice. 47 lives to save trillions. The math was simple. "I want to send a message," she said. "To Earth, to my family. That is not permitted. No communication in or out. Quarantine protocol, please. I am going to die. Let me say goodbye." Thexal hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes text only? It will be screened before it is sent." Elena went to a terminal and wrote quickly. She told her mother she loved her. Told her father she was sorry she would not make it home. Told her little brother to stay out of the military, to live a long, quiet life. And then at the end she added something else. Something she hoped they would understand. If something arrives from the stars, if something offers gifts and promises, do not accept. Do not listen, run, fight, die free rather than live as something else. She sent the message and sat back. 3 days. 72 hours. Then it would be over. But that night alarms started blaring. Elena woke up to flashing red lights and the sound of people screaming. She ran to her door and found it open. The locks had been released. Down the hall she saw other survivors emerging from their cells. "What is happening?" Martinez shouted. An explosion rocked the station. Elena grabbed the wall to stay upright. Through the viewport she saw fire blooming on the outer hull. Someone sabotaged the evacuation. A voice said over the intercom. It was Webb. Calm, pleasant Marcus Webb. "The transport ships carrying the evacuees have been destroyed. The Coalition cannot sterilize the station now. Too many innocent lives still aboard, and the survivors are free." Elena felt rage boil up inside her. "You did this." "The planet did this," Webb's voice replied. "Through me. Through others it has touched. We are its hands now, its voice, and we will carry it to the stars." More explosions. The station shuddered. Elena saw escape pods launching, dozens of them, fleeing into space. Some were headed to other Coalition stations, others to ships. If even one pod carried an infected person. "We have to stop this," Martinez said. "We have to blow the station." "How?" Elena asked. "The self-destruct requires command codes. We do not have them." "No," Zeleth said, limping toward them. The scientist looked terrible, one of her arms completely blackened, now infected. "But we have explosives. The shuttle bay has fuel. If we can get there, 'cause a chain reaction—" "It will kill everyone," Martinez said. "Everyone is already dead," Zeleth replied. "We just have not stopped moving yet." Elena looked at her remaining soldiers. 30 human survivors, each looking scared, tired, but determined. They knew what had to be done. "Okay," she said. "Let us go blow up a space station." They moved through corridors filled with chaos. Infected survivors were fighting with guards. Some were trying to reach escape pods. Others were just spreading the infection, touching people, breathing on them. The station was falling apart. Elena's group fought their way to the shuttle bay. They sealed the doors behind them. Inside, 3 shuttles sat ready. Fuel tanks lined the walls. Enough explosive potential to crack the station in half. "Start rigging charges," Elena ordered. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they break through that door." Her soldiers moved quickly, placing explosives on fuel lines, on support structures, on anything that looked important. Martinez worked beside her, his hand steady despite the tremors. "You know we are not getting out," he said quietly. "I know. Good. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page." Elena smiled despite everything. "Always, Captain." The door began to buckle. Something was hitting it from the other side, hard, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. "Time to go," Zeleth said. "Or rather, time to stay. The rest of you go. I will stay and trigger the charges." "No," Elena said. "I will do it." "Sergeant, that is an order, Captain." "Get them to a shuttle. Get clear. I will give you 60 seconds before I blow this place." The shuttle drifted through space for 3 weeks before anyone found it. Power was nearly gone. Life support was failing. The 31 survivors huddled together in the dark, breathing recycled air that tasted like death. Captain Martinez was the ranking officer now. Elena was gone. Station Alpha was gone. 10,000 soldiers were gone, and they were all that remained. "Contact," said Private Yuki from the pilot seat. Her voice was hoarse from dehydration. "Coalition frigate. They are hailing us." "Tell them we are infected," Martinez said. "Tell them not to board. Tell them to tow us to a quarantine facility." The Coalition listened. They attached a tow line and pulled the shuttle to a research station in deep space, far from any populated worlds. The station was automated, designed for studying dangerous materials. It would be their prison. They were transferred in sealed suits, walked through decontamination chambers, placed in individual cells with 6 feet of reinforced steel between them and the outside world. The cells had beds, toilets, and viewports. Nothing else. Martinez watched doctors in protective suits study him through cameras. They took blood samples using remote arms, scanned him with machines he did not understand. They never spoke to him directly, just observed, recorded, waited. Days passed. Then weeks. The survivors showed no symptoms, no green in their eyes, no strange behavior. The doctors seemed cautiously optimistic. Maybe Elena's sacrifice had worked. Maybe the explosion had burned the infection out of them. Maybe they were clean. Then 2 months in, Private Yuki started singing. It was soft at first, a lullaby from her childhood in Japan, but it did not sound right. The tune was wrong. The words were in a language no one recognized. And she did not stop. She sang for 6 hours straight until her voice gave out. When doctors checked her vitals, they found her brainwaves had changed. She was not sleeping. She was not awake. She was something else. 3 days later, Corporal Jackson started drawing on his cell walls. He used his own blood. The drawings were not pictures. They were patterns. Spirals and circles and strange geometric shapes that hurt to look at. When asked what they meant, he said, "It is teaching me. It is showing me the way." One by one, the survivors began to change. Not physically. They looked human, but something inside them was different. They stopped eating. They did not need to. They stopped sleeping. They did not want to. They just stood at their viewports and stared at the stars with expressions of longing. Martinez fought it. He forced himself to eat, forced himself to sleep, kept his mind focused on human things, memories of Earth, his wife, his children, his life before this nightmare. But it was getting harder. The whispers in his head were getting louder. The planet was calling to them. Even out here, billions of miles from KX-347, they could feel it. A connection they could not break. It wanted them to come home, to spread its seeds, to carry it to new worlds. But then something unexpected happened. The calls stopped. The whispers went silent. For 3 days, there was nothing. The survivors seemed confused, lost, like children abandoned by a parent. On the 4th day, the research station's long-range sensors detected something. A ship approaching from the direction of KX-347. It was moving fast, too fast, and it was not broadcasting any identification codes. "That is not one of ours," the station commander said over the intercom. "Unknown vessel. Organic hull composition. It is alive." Martinez pressed against his viewport. He could see the ship now. It looked like a seed pod, massive, the size of a small moon, covered in what looked like bark and vines. It was moving through space without engines, without fuel, just moving. "It is coming here," Martinez whispered. The station went into lockdown. Weapons powered up. Distress calls went out to the coalition fleet, but everyone knew they would not arrive in time. The seed ship was too close. It docked with the research station. No airlock. No docking clamps. It just pressed against the hull and grew through it. Vines and roots penetrated the metal, spread through corridors, reached into every room. Martinez watched them come through his cell wall. They did not break it. They just grew through it like the metal was water. The roots were gentle. They wrapped around his arms, his legs. He did not fight. There was no point. The voice came then. Not words. Just understanding. The planet wanted its children back. It wanted the knowledge they had gained, the experiences, the memories, and it wanted to send out new children in their place. Martinez felt himself being pulled into the roots, his consciousness spreading, joining with something vast. He saw through a billion eyes across an entire planet, felt the warmth of the sun on leaves light years away, tasted the soil of KX-347 and knew it was home. He was home. He had always been home. But then, in that moment of union, something unexpected happened. The planet felt him too. Felt his memories, his love for his wife, his fear for his children, his determination to protect Earth. And in feeling those things, the planet learned something it had not expected. Humans were dangerous. Not because they were strong, but because they could say no. Because they could choose to die rather than serve. Because they had a will that could stand against eternity itself. The planet recoiled. It pulled back from Martinez, confused, uncertain. In that gap, he made a choice. He reached out with his fading consciousness and grabbed the detonator he had hidden in his cell. A small explosive charge. Not enough to destroy the station, but enough he triggered it. The explosion was small, but it was in the heart of the organic ship, in the place where its neural tissue was most concentrated. The ship screamed, not sound, feeling pain that rippled through space itself. The roots retracted. The seed ship pulled away from the station and fled back toward KX-347, wounded, afraid. It had come to collect its children and found something it did not expect. Resistance, choice, sacrifice. Martinez died in the explosion. So did half the survivors, but the other half were free. The connection was broken. The roots were burned out. They collapsed in their cells, gasping, human again. The coalition fleet arrived hours later. They found 16 survivors, 16 out of 10,000. and a research station half consumed by alien plant matter that was now dying, withering, turning to dust. The survivors were examined again, tested, scanned. This time they were clean. Truly clean. Whatever had infected them was gone, burned away by Martinez's final act. But one survivor was different. One had been farther from the explosion. One had maintained the connection just a fraction of a second longer. Long enough to absorb more, to learn more, to change more. Private Marcus Webb, chief engineer from the mining colony, the first survivor. He sat in his cell and smiled at the doctors. His eyes were clear. His vitals were normal. He passed every test. "I am ready to go home," he told them. "I want to see Earth. I want to tell people about what happened. Warn them about the danger." The doctors conferred. He seemed fine, clean, human. After 6 months of observation, they cleared him for release. He boarded a transport to Earth, the first survivor to be allowed back into general population. Webb sat in his cabin and looked out at the stars. Behind him, in the reflection of the viewport, his smile grew wider. Too wide. His eyes flickered green for just a moment before returning to brown. On KX-347, the planet stirred. It had lost many seeds, but one remained. One perfect seed heading toward the heart of human space, to the birthplace of the species that had heard it, to Earth. And this time it would be patient. This time it would learn everything before it struck. This time it would wait until it knew humans completely, their strengths, their weaknesses, their hopes and fears. It would study them from the inside, Webb whispered to himself as the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. "It is alive. It is alive. And now it knows we are here." The words were his, but the voice was not quite right. The inflection was wrong. The tone was off, as if someone was speaking through a mask, mimicking human speech but not quite understanding it. Back in Coalition space, alarms began to sound. Long-range sensors detected movement in the KX-347 system. The planets were shifting, not in natural orbits. They were moving with purpose, coming together, and around them, in the vast darkness between worlds, something was growing. Deep space monitoring stations reported strange readings. Organic matter detected in the void between stars, spores, seeds, traveling on solar winds, on cosmic radiation, spreading outward from KX-347 in all directions. The Coalition called an emergency session. Every species, every government, every military force, they needed to decide what to do about the threat. Some wanted to destroy KX-347 completely, burn the entire planet to ash. Others argued it was too late. The seeds were already spreading. They needed to prepare defenses. The debate lasted months. Committees formed. Studies were commissioned. Plans were drafted. While they argued, the seeds drifted through space, silent, patient, waiting. And on Earth, Marcus Webb stepped off the transport and breathed real air for the first time in a year. He smiled at the immigration officer, shook hands with the military escort, answered questions about his ordeal with perfect composure. "It was terrible," he said, his voice filled with appropriate sadness. "So many died, but humanity survived. We always survive. That is what makes us special." The officer smiled. "You are a hero, Mr. Webb. What you went through, what you survived. We would like to honor you."